Can't get any words. Podcasts don't last, giving you the real talk, no holding back. Can't get any worse, we'll make you see. There's always a silver lining. We'll set you free, so join the movement. Let's change the game with the Can't Get Any Worse podcast.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Can't Get Any Worse podcast. We have a guest in studio today. We've got Mr. Ty Avery himself. How you going, mate?
Very good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, mate. Very good. So I guess it's probably best for you to give a bit of a rundown. I know you from actually we met before your podcast, didn't we? So, not really met, but we were
I think we were talking for a little bit, and then you came on for episode 3 for my podcast, and then I think after that, the next time we met was the first gig or the first event that you did at Distillery Road Market.
Yeah, that's right. So Ty's podcast is the Roads We've Walked podcast. Mate, you got to plug it when people ask.
Yeah, 100%.
That's how you get like 3 viewers like I've got.
3, that's giving me credit, mate.
It's a hard game, isn't it? It's a very oversaturated market to try and get into, but I reckon you're crushing it. I reckon, because I even said this after your first couple of episodes, like your interview style is you're very good at like getting stories out of people. Even me, when I came on, I'm like, you don't just go straight for the jab. You like,
I sort of try to like dissect and break things down because, like, you know, anyone can sort of, you know, tell a story here and there, but when people come on and then they try to, you know, tell their story, I like to break it down to the point where you get to the nitty gritty details.
Yep.
So like when you came on and I sort of noticed too, and I actually can't believe I still remember this, but when you were talking about the whole ordeal you had with the break-in.
Yep.
And I noticed like you on the table and you were just tapping your fingers.
Yeah.
Because like the whole time we were talking, you were fine, and then as soon as you started talking about that, I started picking that up. I'm like, fuck, maybe I should get into like counselling.
Yeah. You should. No, you're very good at pulling stories out of people. So yeah, your interview style is very good. So anyone that's keen to listen to some chats with some good blokes, jump over and give Ty's podcast a listen. He's very supportive of this one. I love the messages you shoot every now and then and go, fuck, I loved hearing the story of you embarrassing yourself in some way this week. No, but what inspired you to make that leap? And so
I guess we'll go back to when I sort of first thought of the idea. It was back in 2022, and I started to listen to the Howie Games. So Mark Howard is a cricket commentator, or is a sport commentator, and he started his own podcast called the Howie Games, and I started listening to that, and majority of his guests he gets on are just people to do with sports, like AFL, cricket, rugby league, and I sort of started listening to them in a way where people who I've watched on TV, like doing sports, like Adam Gilchrist, Andrew Simons, fucking Joel Selwood, just all these people you watch on TV, and then having them come on and hearing their story, because you know, you can go on Wikipedia and you can read what that is, but you know what they say about Wikipedia, half the shit's not true.
Yeah.
So I guess for me it was just I wanted to listen to stories coming from their voice.
Yeah.
Because if it's coming from their voice, you know, it's the real deal. So I think for me, when I sort of started listening to that, I had this idea of like, you know, what if I could do that? You know, I think at the time, Joe Rogan's been around a bit, so he's had, you know, guests on that I've sort of listened to their episodes, and he doesn't sort of do the whole breaking down of a life story. He just gets them on and they just have a casual chat and just lead to everything. But for me, it was I wanted to, you know, have the story of someone, break it down, and then it's even the same with Brizzy from the Dead Eyes podcast. You know, he gets people on to tell their stories. So I'm like, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years time, you know, their children or their grandchildren can go back and listen to that and sort of think, oh wow, mum or dad did that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely comes across that way as well. And like I've noticed that as well is because I've only just started dipping my toe back into guests again because of reasons we've covered 1,000 times. But I'm definitely not like an interview style type person. Yeah. Like the start of this podcast is probably about as interviewee as we're going to get. Yeah.
I'm similar this is the fucking stupidest thing I've ever said, but similar to the same vein you just said about Joe Rogan, where I just like getting people in, having a chat, and if it fucking goes off on a tangent about goldfish for 45 minutes, then let's fucking do it. But
hey, goldfish are important.
they are. We don't know if you listened to last week's. We've actually lost one recently, so
yeah, I did listen.
Rest in peace. I don't even think it got a name officially yet. That's how fresh it was. But yeah, I definitely think that's a sick idea, and like, because my episode you basically covered from fucking when I was a kid to like
basically you were born and you had to go into surgery for your kidney.
Fuck, you remember it all.
I do.
This do you like? Because that's another thing I'm terrible at is someone will be talking to me and I'll already be in my head of like how I have a story to come back at that person with. But something I've noticed you're so good at is you'll listen to someone's whole answer and then you'll somehow dip back into 30 seconds into their answer and then bring that back to like 2 minutes into their answer.
Yeah, my mind sort of goes off a bit of a tangent because like I can, like as soon as they might be telling, you know, a little bit of their story and then they'll just be like one thing and it just clicks like, all right, bring it back to that after they finish talking about that. And then like it just might be something that, I don't know, it just clicks in my mind that, all right, we got to talk about that as well.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because I feel like that's sort of like, it's also an important part of the story. Like, the one that I spoke about, the one that came out on Monday with Chad, he was talking about his story and then he just mentioned Europe. I'm like, fuck, well, there's a 5-minute tangent we can go at, so let's talk about Europe. Exactly,
yeah. No, for sure. Because has your brain always sort of worked like that? You're always good at like retaining information and stuff?
Fuck, I don't know how my brain works.
Really?
No, it has. Like, and it was even something I was sort of working on. Like, the more episodes that I did for the podcast, I wanted to sort of, it was something that I wanted to work on because the way I sort of do it, I just do it on the fly. Like at the start, because I remember when I was reaching out to you and I said, you know, send through your life bio just so I have a sort of list of stuff that I can sort of talk about, questions I can ask. But then I sort of thought, I got to the point where it might have been episode, like a couple of episodes after yours. And I thought, fuck it, you know what, let's just wing it and just try and make it as natural and authentic as possible.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of what I wanted to do from then on. And then it's like the little things that you sort of notice, all right, maybe I can do this better. Maybe I can do that better. And then it was even like, not just the podcast stuff, but also the stuff that you post on social media. I can do this better. Like I look back now and the cover photos I used to do where it was like the black background with the Roads Walk podcast and then I just cut out the picture and have that. I look back now and I'm like, that's so fucking shit. It is so bad, and like, the ones that I do now, all I do is it's just like the actual picture, and then I just put like a little column on the side, and that was another idea that I got from another podcast. So Zero Limits podcast with Matty Morris. He basically he's an ex ADF veteran, served in the 3 RAR Royal Australian Regiment. Like that group of soldiers, and they're known for like they're the paratroopers of the Australian Defence Force, really. So he started his. He's either 200. He's just over 200 episodes in. But I sort of started to pick up things that he was doing on his cover photos, and I thought, you know, like the photos that he puts up is like, his guests might be like in the actual soldier uniform, like with you know, taking pictures of like their guns and stuff. So he just had that whole photo, and then there was just a little blip on the side where it was their name, what, you know, branch they served in, what battalion they served in, and then the episode number.
Yeah, definitely. No, I do exactly the same thing. Is like, I look back at some of my stuff and I'm like, fuck, that looked awful. And it's crazy, like, because I had no idea about literally anything in this room before I started doing the podcast, and I've just had to learn along the way. And I think it's I think we had similar chats at the start as well. I'm like, fuck, it's just something you learn like at the start. And there's like, I don't know how many chats I've had with people like that. I'm so glad that you've like stuck with it, because I've spent hours on the phone with people like in the comedy scene and stuff. They're like, I'm going to start a podcast, and then they get 5 episodes in. They're like, why don't I have sponsors? Why don't I have this? And they just quit. And I'm like, fuck, like there goes all that.
But that's what I've heard a lot of people say, you know, like, you know, if you don't get to 10 if you don't get to 10 episodes, a lot of people will fail after that. So I think that was sort of the first thing, for me, like my goal was just to achieve that 10 episodes. So like I usually do, we'll take it back. So back to 2022 when I thought of the idea. And then like obviously during that whole time, COVID was going on, people were losing their jobs, and I think at the time I got made redundant from my job, so I had a lot of things to like catch up on, like bills, debts, all that sort of stuff. So what I did with all that redundancy money, I just made sure everything was paid off, and I think I might have just been on job seeker at the time, just because it was a bit hard to find work here and there. So I wanted to do the podcast, started in 2022, but obviously just didn't. And when it came around to, I think it was like the start of 2024. So my first episode was April 26th with James VC, 2024. So I think at the start of 2024, I sort of thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start it. Let's do some research, see what we can find. So I have a mate who was actually episode 5, Jack Fulham. So he worked for Triple M, works for SEN now. Yep. So I hit him up, and because he's got his own podcast, shout out Northern Exposure with Jack Fulham and Nick Davis. I hit him up and asked, what kind of stuff would he recommend? And he said, the first thing you got to do, you got to get a roadcaster. Mm-hmm. A roadcaster, I feel like I think even you said it's a game changer for everyone doing podcasts.
100%, yeah.
So did that. Do you want me to tell the story about the roadcaster?
Yeah.
So
I think I've even mentioned it on here when mine started to fuck up.
Yeah, I think it was with you and Maddie.
Yeah.
So he says, get a roadcaster, even just have a look on eBay and see what you find. So I was just have a look. And I came across one. It was a Gen 1, and I think it was like, buy it now $600 or make an offer. So I was like, fuck, I don't really want to lowball him to the point where he just says no. So I was like $400. About 2 hours later, accepted. Fucking beauty. Well, I've just got a Gen 1 roadcaster, and like I looked at all the pictures, looked all right. So ended up getting it, got it shipped, and I had it for about 2 weeks. Everything was working fine. Like I hadn't started, my first episode yet, but I was just playing around with it, seeing how things worked. And then I think I had it for about 2 weeks, and then when I plugged it into my laptop, it said that you needed to update the firmware. I was like, yep, cool, update the firmware. Got about halfway through, and then it just froze, and it was like the Xbox 360 red ring of death. Yeah. It just froze. It went black. Nothing was working. No sounds, no lights. So if you've ever seen a roadcaster, it's just full of lights. And so the lights just died. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, that's $400 just down the drain. And then I thought to myself, what do? Do I look at getting another one, or do I contact Rode? So I bit the bullet. I contacted Rode. I said, hey, look, this is what's going on. I try to update the firmware. It was doing this and that, wasn't working. It froze, lights gone out, blah, blah, blah. They said, okay, yep, cool. Send it down. We'll have a look. So I sent it down. They had a look at it, and I hadn't heard from them for like 2 weeks. There was no communication, no correspondence whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, fuck, I'll let it get to about 2.5 weeks, and then if I hear nothing, I'll message him. And I come home from work one day. There was a package sitting outside the door, and it said Rode on it. I'm like, oh, cool, they must have fixed it. Take it inside, open it up. Here's a brand new Gen 2 roadcaster.
So good.
I'm like, you fucking beauty. And like Gen 2 roadcasters, like they're not exactly cheap.
Oh, 100%.
I think they're like, I think last time I had a look on like DJ City or something like that, they were like $1,200-$1,300.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a Gen 2 roadcaster for $400.
It's not a bad win.
I'm like fucking winning. So shout out to Rode. I'll never bag them for that.
Nah, their replacement policy is for sure. Like similar thing with the headphones the other week. I contacted them. I'm like, this is going to be such a fuck around. And within 24 hours, they'd processed my claim. They had an answer for me. They couldn't replace it completely because it had just come out of warranty. But they're like, here's a fucking 40% discount or something on your next roadcaster. Yeah. I'm like, fucking what other company's doing that? And I'm like, because I'm like, fuck, I don't have that kind of money laying around at the moment. I'm like, how long does this last? And they're like, lifetime. Whenever you want a roadcaster, just put this code in and you can get one. I'm like, fuck yeah. So, so good. I won't shit on them.
Because they asked me for like warranty and receipts. I'm like, oh, I misplaced them. Obviously, I might have lied a little bit, but I misplaced them. And they said, yep, no worries, send it down. Like, because I made the claim online and then they called me within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty fucking
cool. Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, I heard, who's that fucking scientist who's always on Triple J? Dr. Carl, I think it is. Yeah, I saw a TikTok of him the other day. And he rattled off this weird stat that I didn't expect, but I mean, when I thought about it, kind of makes sense that Rode is currently the highest selling microphone company in the world. They sell like 900 microphones a day or something. I'm like, Jesus Christ, yeah. So that's pretty. I found that impressive. That's a weird stat that stuck in my head for some reason.
Well, I guess that's just a testament to what they're about, really.
Exactly.
Like, you see a lot of content creators now, like they'll have like the wireless Rode mics. They'll have like the mics with the handle, and a lot of people are using, you know, for podcasts and stuff. Like you might see, you know, a lot of popular podcasts that are using other stuff, but like, I think it's good with Rode is that like you can buy like the podcast pack. So I think you get the Rodecaster, 2 mics, 2 headphones, and all the cords that come with it.
Yeah, that's what I ended up getting. I got pretty lucky. I decided to have my crazy idea like a month or 2 out from my birthday, and my mum goes, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I go, "This is going to sound fucking stupid and like every other crazy idea I've ever had, but kind of want to do podcasting." And she's like, "All right." Well, I think we ended up going halves or something. But I reckon, yeah, if she didn't go halves with me, I'd probably still be sitting here going, I should fucking start a podcast. Like,
shout out, mum.
Yeah, shout out, mum. So, yeah, where was I going to go with that? Fucking this whole interview, I'm just waiting on like the Uno reverse from you. You're just going to fucking...
I'm going to start interviewing
you. Yeah, you're going to reverse it on me. You're going to take it back to my childhood.
No, I was full in the mind that today I'm just going to come here. I'm going to relax. I don't have to worry about fuck all. I don't have to worry about setting up cameras, setting up mics. This is all your job.
Yeah, no, 100%. But you mentioned a couple of other podcasters before. I know you're pretty... You've had you've had some big podcasters on yours as well. Like you've had Brizey, you've had Jesse from Five with a Digger. Is that? Yeah. Am I missing anyone? Who else you had?
He's not much of a big name, but Matty Carbosso.
Oh yeah, how can I forget him? Fucking hell! Shout out to Matty if you're watching this. Matty. He'll be watching this. He'll be going, "How come these fucking dogs didn't get me in there?"
He'll be listening to this too. And Matty, if you're listening, mate, happy birthday because it is his birthday today.
Is it actually?
It is.
That just shows how much of a dog I am. But happy birthday, Matty.
I only know that just because it came up on Facebook. Yeah. With the notifications.
I haven't really been on socials this morning. Otherwise, I would have known. But I'll send you a dick pic after this and it'll make up for it. But we're still juggling around that idea of you, me and Matty sitting down and dissecting the podcast Royale that's coming up.
Yeah, I sort of thought, you know, like obviously us three aren't fighting in it. And I thought, you know, maybe like an outsider's point of view. That way it's not biased because you might have people that who are actually on the podcast Royale, like on the card, who are actually fighting in it, that they might do the sort of the same thing on their end, and it might not that they want to be biased, but I think just from an outsider's point of view. So I sort of thought to myself, fuck, you know, like it was a bit of an idea that sort of came to me. I sort of thought, well, why don't us three sort of get together when the betting odds come out, and that way we can sort of break it down, because obviously, you know, you do your UFC breakdowns. Yeah. I listen to them. Put a few punts on and you're a bit shit, but no. But I said,
how good are the underdogs when they win though?
Yeah,
you go, fucking this makes up for it.
Yeah, so I sort of thought of that, and I was like, well, yeah, why don't we get together? Because it only benefits all three of us for our podcast sort of thing. So I thought,
definitely,
you know, and I say this all the time, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships. So if us three can sort of benefit out of that and have a laugh while we're doing it, then why not?
100%. I think that's like something huge. There seems to be probably a group of maybe like 10 comedians, 10 podcasts at the moment in Australia that are all sort of, they're up there at the top. And then I think it's good that people on our level can sort of shoot them a message and fucking, they've got the time of day, I suppose, to give us advice and things like that. So hopefully we can break into that stratosphere. Still pretty dirty. I didn't get picked for the Potty Royale, but would have fucking thrown down like a beast, I reckon.
Did you put in a preference for who you wanted to fight?
I put in Matty, but fucking because we did that stupid little call out thing to each other on Instagram, and I put Matty, and then in brackets I go fucking because I knew he was a bit smaller than me. I think he weighs like fucking 80 kilos or some shit, and I'm like 120. I'm like fuck, because I knew that was a big thing they were going for this year, is more like even matchups in height and weight and all that. So I put in brackets. I'm like fucking, but if anyone my size and height's chasing someone, then anywhere I can fit in. So even when they sent me like the decline or whatever, I replied, I'm like, if anyone drops out, even if it's the day of, I'm in the Goldie. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. So yeah, but we'll see what happens. We'll see. Maybe Jeremy Lattimore will drop out or something, and I can jump in the heavyweight fight. I don't know if there's many heavyweight fights. Is there this year? I know last year we had Klutzy.
Yep. But that was a bit of a mismatch.
It definitely was, for sure. Ty Tommy put up a story just before I was watching it. He's looking pretty lean at the moment.
He's pretty fit. I remember seeing a photo. I think it was the last time. It was when there were the Reggies.
Yeah.
So it was Tom, Groper, Jace, and then B1 and B2, Tom Barbary and Tommy Button. And they were down, I think it might have been the Magic Millions when they were looking at buying their horse, or it was something to do with that. And, this is obviously before the whole idea of the podcast Royale was coming out. So Tommy had a bit of beef on him. So I saw that photo, and then I think I might have seen something just recently. I saw him there. I'm like, fuck, he's dropped a bit of weight.
Yeah, I saw they must have just been like doing a rerun of old Better Beer ads, and it must have been like when they first got the sponsorship. And even when I saw that, it was like him on a beach or something in a singlet, and he was looking like chunky. I'm like, geez, he's trimmed down heaps these days. But I'm waiting till let's break some news on here. I'm waiting until I go on the Alpha Blokes one day to call them out.
Yeah.
I called Cam out back in the day for
actually, I remember that.
Yeah. And I was like, fucking, jeez, if only that came to fruition. But yeah, I shot him a DM because in the early days he was throwing around, it would have been like before they even got to 100, he's like, I wouldn't mind having like a charity boxing match and shit like that.
Yep.
So I shot him a random DM one day and I was like, fucking, let's do it. I'm a nobody, but fucking, yeah, but just liked it, left me on scene. I'm like, fucking hell. Could have been me.
You pussy.
Yeah. Yeah. Come on, Cam. Come down here. Let's
like my comment and you don't reply, you little bitch.
Little bitch. And then I just started everything trying to get in that first potty royale. I was calling out stupid people. Like I called out Ty Tuivasa. I would have got fucking rolled.
Yeah.
Oh, but
you wouldn't have been able to do a shoey with them after because your jaw would be wide shut.
Could you imagine how insane that would have been? I would have been so stoked though, just to step in the ring with someone like that. Even like, there would have been no hope for me. But
no, you'd have been like that Simpsons episode when Homer fights. What's his name?
Fucking yeah, I remember the one.
Yeah.
But you fly in with a little jetpack and fly me out. Yeah. Oh fuck! But since starting the potty, have you noticed any like changes in yourself or anything? Have you? Because I know that was a big thing for me. Like, I've changed so much since doing the podcast, and I think it's just because I sit in here now, just getting everything out once a week. Like, do you have the same sort of thing? Or
I think for me, the biggest thing is my confidence.
Yeah,
I'm a lot more confident. Obviously, like the more you do things, the more confident you become. But like, sort of in the early days when I was doing it, like if the day of doing the podcast and like leading up hours that are coming to it, I sort of like, I don't really want to do this. Like you just don't have no motivation.
Yep.
And then it's like now, I can't wait until the day rolls around because I just want to get it done.
That's so good.
And just sort of add to it. So I think confidence and being able to speak in a manner of what's the word? Like just be more confident in myself and asking the questions and like what we were talking about before when I go back to breaking down things, like just being able to do that and in a way so that like the guests can understand, but also the people listening can understand, if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. But yeah, that's a huge thing with me as well, is the random confidence you get behind it. And when I was doing guests at the start, like a lot of that first maybe 50 or so, some of them were Ash's mates and Adrian's mates and shit like that. So I had no idea. And same deal, like they're like, oh, we've locked in this person for Saturday, and I'm sitting there all week going, fuck, I just hate talking to new people. But since starting that, and maybe hand in hand with the whole comedy thing as well, having to go to gigs and be social, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a huge game changer for me for sure. But so I don't really know how you go about booking your guests and things like that, but for me personally, it's just been like more or less cold calling on Instagram, just fucking random messages, random emails and shit. Do you do it that way as well, or you?
So for me, how I sort of did it. So my first 2 episodes, I got them through a guy who I know, or I don't know him, but we're just connected through Instagram. He actually runs the Turfies at TAFE page. So the first 2 guests I had was 2 greenskeepers, one at Mackay Golf Course and one at Capulja Golf Course. So that was my first 2, and they were both done on the phone. And then obviously we were talking, so you were my third, and then I think from there it was just it was either Instagram or email. And like I'm not even going to exaggerate, I've probably sent over at least 300 emails just to different people. I don't know if it's just like people read them and they don't bother responding, which I have no problem with. They see like a random random podcaster or just random person that's just messaging him and just, hey, come on and tell your life story.
Yeah.
So for me, it doesn't bother me if they don't reply. It's like, all right, they don't reply. Maybe I can hit them up in 6 months, a year's time and try to get them again. So yeah, it's either emails or Instagram, and then just trying to work out times. Because like the way because obviously, you know, you have your podcast like what you do yours weekly. You always have an episode come out. But for me, because I do more of like a long form sort of thing, and I say to my, you know, potential guests, I say, look, I like my episodes to be anywhere between an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. That way it allows to really get, you know, dive deep into the stories. Like I think ours went for about 2.5 hours.
I think so, yeah.
2 hours 20 or something like that. So
I looked down at my clock and my watch and I was like, fuck, that went longer than it felt. Like it legit felt like we sat down for 45 minutes and fucking, time flew by, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of how I sort of try to deal with things. Like if there's an episode, you know, that's being gone for like an hour 10, hour 20, and then it sort of feels like it starts to wrap up, I sort of try and, you know, ask just different random questions that can sort of make it go on for a bit more. But then it might be at that time where if I do ask a certain question or a random question, that'll lead on to a tangent of something else.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So that's how I sort of try and do it, and people are cool with that. Like, and that's sort of one of the hardest things for me is that like I tell them like I need probably about 2 to 3 hours of your time.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's a bit hard for me to schedule in a guest every week because, you know, I got to make sure that not only do I have the time to do it, but they've got to have the time to do it. Because, you know, people have families, people have other commitments, and I'm totally understandable with that. And that's why I sort of did that thing a couple of weeks ago, the updates on the roads, just so it sort of gives people an idea of sort of what I'm going through in my life and not putting out episodes as much as I like to be, if that makes sense.
No, 100%. How did you feel doing that solo one? Was it a bit daunting? Or
I was so fucking nervous.
Really?
Like, yeah,
it's
like
crazy, yeah.
Because I sort of see how you do this, and like obviously you've got your own setup, you've got your own like camera gear and all that sort of stuff. So, and you're so used to doing it because like obviously you know your first, was it like 60 episodes, 60, 70?
Yeah,
like you
somewhere
had
around there.
Ash and Adrian in here, and I thought, you know, seeing you do that, like when you did it, you probably just went off tangents of each other. Like everyone just keeps the ball rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
So then when I sort of thought to myself, hey, maybe I should do that, then I just had like, it was like deer in the headlights, like, oh, fuck. Solo, talking to myself.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? So I just had like I sort of thought to myself, I'll just write a list of notes, like bullet points of what I want to talk about. And I sort of started doing it. I was like stuttering to myself. And then I think it took me about like 3 goes just to try and do it properly.
For sure.
So after I sort of started talking, I had my bullet points down and what I was going to talk about. It didn't feel natural, but the more I sort of got into it, the easier it became.
Yeah, 100%. That's it definitely doesn't feel natural at the start. And literally I've picked myself up, would have only been like the last month or two, that I'll sit in here now and do the solo ones and I'll actually laugh at myself. Like before then I'm like, don't laugh at yourself, you fucking idiot. But then like I listen to all the people that I like that do solo ones, like Bill Burr or fucking Theo Von and shit. And you just hear them say something and then they laugh at themselves and I'm like, okay, like it was almost like permission for me to laugh. And I'm like, okay, that encourages the listener to laugh. But it's a daunting process. Like the first solo ones I did, they would have been around like 60 or 70 or something. And they were literally just nights where Ash and Adrian were like, oh, kids were being shit or something, like can't make it, something's happened.
Yep.
And I just had the mindset of like, I can't skip a week. And like, I think the first 2 I wore sunnies because I just didn't want to look at the camera. I just just got so awkward. And they went for like 20 minutes and I was like, that was such a slog. But yeah, because I saw you put a solo one out and then I saw it went for an hour and I'm like, I'm so keen to see how this plays out. But I reckon you nailed it for sure.
Yeah, I sort of thought as I got to the end, like when I got to the end, I thought to myself, fuck, this is going for almost an hour. I actually can't believe that I did.
Did it feel like it in the time?
No.
Yeah.
It honestly felt like it was like 20, 30 minutes, but then like obviously the roadcast is in front of me, so I'm sort of, you know, seeing the time as it is. But I look back now and I think to myself like, fuck that, like it just, time flew.
Yeah, no, it does. I start to, and again, this is just such a me issue, but I've got like my little run sheet or segments that I sort of do. And I, like if I get to half an hour and I haven't finished what I've done that week, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go overtime and things like that. Because I think I'm just so fixated on that hour, which I need to get out of. I got all these like stupid things in my head that I'm like, that's how it has to be. And I won't break out of it. But like Maddie and I had a good chat about that when he was here, once the cameras went off.
Yep.
And my social media, like especially the podcast one, it's just so uniform. Like I've always just got the post, then the reel, then the post, then the reel. And it's just like, I thought that's aesthetically how it had to be. And he's like, just fucking post everything. Just throw everything. And I know Gary Vee's pretty big at that. And like still, because I remember when we did our podcast, I still think about this like every 3 weeks or so, but I was talking to some stupid person that was trying to tell me how to get bigger on Instagram and didn't fucking eventuate anyway. But when you hit me up to like collaborate on that post and I was like, oh, they're fucking telling me not to do that or something because it's got to look a certain way. And I'm like, I should have just fucking shared it. So like every time you tag me in a story now, I throw it up there, but I'm like, you're a fucking dog. So hopefully no hard feelings.
No, I'm fucking heartbroken.
I thought you would be.
No, it's just one of those things. Like I sort of thought the same thing, you know, because when people come across, you know, your social media pages, it's just got to look a certain way. Like to me, I sort of thought to myself, how can I make my page sort of stand out?
Yeah.
And like when I was putting up those cover photos where it was like the black background with the logo and then like the picture cropped out, I sort of thought to myself, like, you know, like from an outside, like looking from an outside point of view, like if I went across and just randomly saw that page and had a look at those, I just think it looked shit.
Yeah.
So that's why I sort of wanted to change it. And it was the same thing with the, like, you know, how you put reels up.
Yep.
And obviously at that stage, I wasn't filming my episode, so I was just doing like the audio waveform.
Yeah.
And I sort of thought, well, it's something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
So that's why I sort of wanted to do it. So then I sort of thought to myself, well, everyone else that I know is doing podcasts is filming theirs. So I sort of thought to myself, well, I gotta start filming because it's the only way to sort of, you know, boost anything that I want to boost.
Yep.
So I think my first episode that I started filming was Tom Barbary, Brisbane Horseman. So and the camera that I got, because I used to do a little bit of photography back in the day, but just never eventuated. So I had a camera sitting there, but the camera that I got, it only films in 30-minute increments.
Gotcha.
So when I was doing my episode with Barbs, and I didn't know this, I was filming, and then I just happened to look at it, and it was shut off. It was just a black screen. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I clicked the button again, and then pressed record and started recording again. So I probably missed like maybe a quarter.
Yeah, okay.
A quarter of his episode, like filming it. But I still got reels out. But for me, that's just one thing I sort of wanted to work on, like make sure I got, you know, majority of it. And then obviously, if I have an episode that goes for, you know, over 2 hours, the battery doesn't last that long.
Yeah.
So I have to, you know, pause the podcast, I have to change the battery, put the new battery in, and then, you know, start filming again. So it's just one of those, you know, work in progress things that I got to work on things to make the podcast better. And it's one of those things where you're learning something new every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So for me, you know, the next step would be to get a camera, like even if it's like this or like a proper camera where it'll film the whole thing. The battery will last the whole episode, and I can easily plug it from the Rodecaster to the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many, because that's what's like, I'm long overdue for a new camera, but it's every bit of digging I do into like a new camera, it's like, okay, it can do all this, but then it can't do this feature. Like, and I think maybe my expectations are too much because I want it to be able to film the podcast, and I'm having issues where it like shuts off after 30 minutes, like you said, or even an hour. And it's like, fuck, if I do an hour and 5 minutes or something, like it'll just irritate me. I want it to be able to do like live streaming for YouTube lives and stuff, because that's something else I'd love to do eventually, is do my UFC breakdowns, but then almost do like a fight companion. Shit like that as well. And it's an overcomplicated thing. And
yeah, I think it's one of those things where like, and I said this in the updates on the roads episode, that like for me, I think I'm too hard on myself. Yep. I expect too much so soon, and I think it's just one of those things you just got to work towards to. Like I said, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
So I think it's just one of those things you got to just take step by step. It's like paying off debts. Pay off your small ones first.
Yep.
That way you can concentrate on the bigger ones.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's it. But yeah, even little shit, like I never would have got lights. And then I think it was Ash said to me one day, he's like, oh, why don't you get lights? It'll make it look better. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And then I went and got lights and I'm like, oh my God, it changed the whole appearance of everything. I'm like, and they were like $12 off Temu or something. I'm like,
Temu?
Yeah.
Surprised
Shout out to Temu.
Surprised you got the actual lights you ordered.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen a couple of people lately haven't got their shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're also like a husband and a dad?
Not a husband.
Not a husband. Sorry, my bad.
Cut that shit out.
Cut that shit.
No, I have a partner of coming up 6 years this year.
Yep.
Got two little kids, both 4 and 2, but have the attitude of teenagers.
Yeah, it's crazy. Hey, it's crazy how they develop into that attitude. I'm assuming your kids aren't as crazy as mine are that I come on here and shit every week on.
They can be.
They can be. Yeah, it's good to hear that it's not just me. I like running into parents that have the struggles as well. There's nothing worse than like going to a party or something and there's just like the good kids sitting there colouring or something and it's like, fuck you.
No, they're literally running around throwing shit everywhere and just being fucking rebellious. But like I look back at it now, like my son, he starts prep next year.
Yep.
And I had a moment where I was sitting back the other day and I was just watching him do his thing. Like he was playing with his toys and I'm thinking, fuck, he's in prep next year. He starts school next year. Where did the last 4 or 5 years go? It's
crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Literally, like, I'm going through that. I probably had a similar thing back when he was 4, but now Westy's 8. And it's like, he's like a genuine little dude now. Like, we had his birthday party yesterday and just seeing him interact with his mates and stuff. And like, they're making jokes and laughing at shit that I remember I used to laugh at when I was a kid. And I'm like, fuck, he's like a proper kid now. It's such a weird thing to experience. And then it's like, seeing that just makes me go to like Parker, who's my 4-year-old, and just grab him and be like, you're never fucking growing up. You're staying this little forever.
Yeah.
Like,
and like, even too, like I know a lot of the times you talk on your podcast is that like you go with, who's your oldest, Westy? You go to basketball with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that I can't wait for, like for Declan, my son, like when he starts playing sports, whether it be like soccer, AFL, rugby league, basketball, like just anything like that I can go to on the weekends and just watch him do his thing. I don't have to worry about shit that I'm doing on the weekend. I can just be in the moment there watching him play and just doing his thing. Yeah,
it's so good. I'm trying to get, because Parker is the complete opposite. He has no interest in sport whatsoever. I've listed off every sport. I've held photos on my phone. I'm like, you want to do this sport? Nah. Like, he's legit just going to be a little gamer dude, like just obsessed with games and shit. But he would legitimately be the best fucking jiu-jitsu dude I've ever seen in my life. The amount of like chokes and shit that he gets Westy in and the flexibility this kid has is insane. He was on the bed the other day and he was randomly trying to put his ankle on his head and I'm like, that's fucking weird. I'm like, P, can you put your foot behind your head? He's like, yeah. And then he just puts both legs behind his head. And I'm like, you would fuck up so many 4-year-olds at jiu-jitsu.
Have you thought about taking them to like martial arts classes?
100%. I reckon once every 2 days, I'm like, P, I signed you up for jiu-jitsu. You start tomorrow. And he's like, no, I'm not going. I'm like, I kind of want to just get him in the car and just pull up one day and be like, give it a go. Like, but I don't know. He's just, to put it nicely, he's just so soft and fragile. So whenever you force him in a situation, he just won't do it again. So I'm like, the last thing I want to do is scar him from it.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to play the long game. I'm like, maybe when he turns like 5 or 6 and like every now and then I might just put a video on YouTube of some kid just choking the fuck out of another kid. Be like, that looks pretty fun, eh?
Do you want to make $1 million from one fight?
Exactly.
Start doing this.
Exactly. Just don't work for Dana White.
Yeah, well,
controversial.
Yeah, controversial, but I think, you know, the stuff that he's been able to do to take the UFC to where it is now, power slap.
Yeah.
And like even now that bare knuckle boxing that Conor McGregor's starting, like I think everything in the fight world, whether it be boxing, martial arts, fucking all that sort of stuff, it's gone to a new level.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think a lot of not just, you know, adults, but kids and teenagers have probably seen some of the stuff and you know, want to start getting into it. So, and it's even not a bad thing, especially like kids who might be at that age or a little bit older. Like, I know they do a lot of stuff for like anti-bullying or try to de-escalate situations. So I think doing stuff like that, it might be good.
Yeah. No, I think there is a crazy statistic out there where kids that do martial arts and stuff are like 90%, like some crazy figure like that, 90% less likely to bully and start conflict and shit at school.
Because it teaches them a sense of respect as well.
Discipline and respect for sure. So that's one thing I'd love to get both my kids in. Westy did karate for a little bit there, but it just, I don't know, didn't really appeal to him for some reason. But I would have fucking killed to do jiu-jitsu or something when I was a kid. But like, I guess in the 90s, all that shit wasn't really mainstream yet. Yep. So like I was watching.
Fuck, you're old.
Don't tell me you're a 2000s baby.
No, I'm a 95 baby.
Oh, right, there we go. You're fucking old.
I'm 30 this year.
Oh, yeah, right.
Actually, next week.
The big one. When's your birthday?
3rd of March.
Fuck off.
Yep.
That's Nikita's birthday.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Oh, small world.
And then I'm 10th of March. Exactly a week apart.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. We should all fucking have a three-way or something.
Yeah, we'll just have a big birthday bash.
Yeah. But yeah, Dana White, like, I reckon once he's all said and done, he has to go down as one of like the best businessmen in history. To take the UFC from fucking bankruptcy to where it is today it's an insane feat.
Just for people to look at the stuff that he's done. You could use his story or his mind, imagination, whatever you want to use, as like a subject for like a business degree or something.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The stuff he's been able to do, like you said, take UFC from bankruptcy to where it is now.
Yeah.
It's fucking phenomenal.
It's insane as well. Like you see so many motivational clips and shit from him where he's like, fuck the pussy mindset, like all that sort of stuff. He's just so straight down the barrel. He's like, tells you how it is. Like when he was in Australia the other week and he's like, your media is fucking the biggest soft cocks.
He does not hold back.
Yeah, it was so good to see. But I shot up a Instagram story and I'm like, Dana, if you want an official UFC podcast in Australia, hit me up. But no reply from the big dog just yet. You might come on yours. Do you know, speaking about bare knuckle, this literally just popped in my head. And I have a couple of unseen DMs. And I don't want to suggest guests or anything. But Beck Rawlings, do you know her?
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's got an insane story. She'd actually be so good for your podcast. And she lives, I'm not going to give her exact location, but she frequents our local Woolworths.
Oh, does she really?
Yeah.
Oh, send location.
Yeah. Her and her husband, he's a boxer as well. But
yeah, true.
She's got a crazy past. She's actually got a doco on Netflix at the moment of crazy domestic abuse story and shit like that. And then one day she just snapped and became fucking the queen of bare knuckle boxing.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, she had a big stint in the UFC as well, and then when she got cut, everyone's like, what's she going to do? And now she's just unstoppable in bare knuckle boxing, which is insane for women to do. But yeah, so good.
Did you see the most recent one that came out, Hayes Heppy?
Yeah, he's fucking a monster, eh?
I have a connection to him who was actually a guest on my podcast. So I want to try and get not go straight for it, but like just try and work my way sort of to get him on. Yeah, because I reckon he'd be a pretty cool one to sort of
100%
to get on and get his story out.
Yeah, that dude is a fucking beast. And like like you just said, you don't want to go straight for the jugular, like, and that's what I found at the start as well. Like at the start when I was reaching out for guests, I was just like, send them a fucking paragraph, and most of the time they'd be like, hey, I'm not really doing podcasts at the moment, or I'm not interested, or just leave you on scene. And like John Wayne Parr when he came on Distillery Road, that was literally just, I've sent him countless DMs saying, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And fucking, he put up a story one day, just putting a joke up on his story. And I'm like, oh, I've got a gig this week. And I noticed he was doing it a fair bit. So I thought, oh, maybe he's thinking about doing comedy.
Yep.
So I shot him a message and it was just nothing about anything other than, I see you writing jokes. I'm running a comedy gig. If you want to jump up for a spot, be my guest. And then he just it clicked. And like I reckon this is a crazy thing as well, and I never thought this would happen. I reckon I've messaged John Wayne Parr more than anyone in the last 2 months. Like, it's fucking insane.
Is that just him like feeding off you about comedy stuff and wanting to and stuff to do? Or
a little bit.
In general?
In general, a little bit of general. And then like, yeah, every now and then he'll just message me with this random joke that he's come up with, and then I'll be like, oh, that's good. And then he'll just flood my fucking message box with all this other funny shit. But yeah, I hit him up as well. I'm like, I finally made the jump. I'm like, come on the pod. And he's like, oh, nah, not keen. So, but I
do you sort of think he will be keen in the future? Like once because I know he's gone through a bit of a medical thing at the moment, but like when he gets to the point where he's comfortable with himself, he might come on.
Maybe. I said to him, I go, I don't even care if we come on, we don't talk a minute about fighting. I go, come on, let's talk about comedy and where you want to take comedy and shit like that. I'm like, I just genuinely someone I've looked up to for years. I'd love to just sit down and have a chat to you.
Yeah.
And he's like, first time I think he was like, oh, I'm sort of burnt out from podcasts. This was like 2 years ago or something. And then the one last week was, I'm sick of hearing my own voice. Like,
I guess so.
So, but I don't know, like maybe fucking 10 years down the track, who knows? Like, similar thing with, and I 110% don't think this is going to happen, but do you know R. Willie, Ryan Williams?
Name sounds familiar.
Okay, he's like, lives on the sunny coast. He's big in like the X Games and shit like that. Like, first to do heaps of shit on BMX and scooters.
Yeah.
So he started off on scooters, doing all these crazy tricks that no one's ever seen, and then everyone's like, oh, you're a stupid little scooter kid, fucking be a real man and ride BMX and shit. So he's like, fuck you guys. Goes and wins all these gold medals in BMXing as well when he's like never really done that. Doing all these tricks no one's ever seen. And now he's like he'll go down, maybe not to like Travis Pastrana level, but to be doing all the firsts on scooter. He's the first person to do like scooter and BMX in the same X Games, all this shit, right?
Yep.
Same deal. I reached out to him all these years ago. Nah, not really keen. And I see him at Beanley, like he puts stories up of Beanley Skate Park. I'm like, bro, I live 2 minutes away. Just come have a chat. And then the other week he's just had a kid, and he put something up. He'd just gone to America and left his kid here in Australia, obviously. And it was just him sitting at the top of the giant ramp they do. And it was like, I don't know, it seemed like half depressing. He's just like wondering what it's all for anymore or something. So I'm just like, shot him a random message and I was like, I don't even remember what I said, so I won't even say it. But it was just nothing to do with anything. And then same deal. I reckon we've shot each other like 5 or 6 messages since then. And now there seems to be that bit of a rapport. And then I fucking hit him. I'm like, if you're ever in the area, come to a podcast. And he replied and he's like, yeah, I fly out on whenever, but I'll be back mid-March. Let's tee something up. And I'm like, fuck, if that somehow comes to fruition, that'd be so good. But it's crazy. And I think Gary Vee's pretty big on this. He has that thing that's like jab, jab, right hook or something. And he's like, you feed him a little bit and then you go for the big one rather than just like straight off the bat going, hey, come do something for me.
Yep.
Like, because at the end of the day, I'm a nobody. They owe me nothing. Like, there's probably 30,000 other podcasts they can go on and yeah. So just something else I've learnt along the way.
Yeah. Do you sort of feel like when you reach out to someone and ask them to come on and you don't get obviously what you want, like you want them to come on and you get sort of that rejection.
Yep.
Do you sort of feel like you don't want to continue with the guest part sort of thing?
Not so much. Like, I've got so good at, I think there's like a term for it these days, like rejection therapy or something like that. There was a Harry Garside, the Olympic boxer.
Yep.
He was big on it for a while where, I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but he'd just go up to randoms and be like put himself in uncomfortable situations, like, can you buy me a coffee or something, and just want to get rejected. And I think he did that a lot for his mental health. But yeah, like posting a weekly podcast for as long as I have with not a great deal of downloads, if we're being honest, that's a little bit of rejection every week, a bit of a like fucking humbling. And then like same social media, then comedy on top of that, like bombing once a week. So I think I've got pretty good at the whole rejection thing. How do you come about it?
It is a bit of a shit feeling. Like I appreciate people actually putting in the effort to say no.
Exactly, yeah.
But for them to, whether it just be left on scene or they don't reply to an email, it is a bit of a shit feeling because for me, I just want to be so consistent to be able to put something out each week. I know sometimes it just can't be done.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way, things come up. It is what it is. But I think for me, it just as much as it's a negativity, it also makes me want to push more to just keep grinding, keep showing some grit, just keep on pushing.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, it's and especially when there's like, because I mapped out maybe 50 names before I recorded a thing. And I'm like, fuck, this would be ideal. And I was just shooting away DMs, and just to have a few of them message me back and just say no, or even leave me on scene. I don't know if that's worse or whatever. I feel like for me personally, the no's were worse because it was like, you've addressed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty heartbreaking at the start. But then once I got past that, I'm like, can't get any worse.
Can't get any worse.
There it is. There's the plug. So where do you see your podcast? What moves and stuff, I guess, would you be making to get it where you want it to be?
I've had a lot of people ask me this question: where I want to take the podcast, what's my end goal? And I guess
that was a good way of wording that question.
Yeah,
that's why you're the interviewer.
I guess that's the way I sort of think of it. Like, you know, we see these podcasts where they're getting paid, they do it full time, they've got sponsors, they got, you know, all the glamour and gold. I think for me, it's just, I don't have an end goal. I just want to see how far I can take it.
Yeah, I think that's good.
If I can do this to a point where I could do it full time, if, you know, say someone who's in a high position comes across and say, hey, I like what you're doing, maybe you can come on our platform and, you know, we can help you get bigger. Sure, great. Sponsors, I'd love to get sponsors on board just to sort of, you know, it's like what I said before, a rising tide lifts all ships. So if they can help me out and I can help them out and it's good for everyone, sure, let's do it. So I think for me, it's not more of an end goal. It's just, let's see how far I can take it.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good mindset to have with it. And I didn't really develop that until I was maybe like 50 episodes in. And I've spoken about it as well numerous times. But when I first started comedy and podcasting, I wanted to be the biggest and best. But now I'm like, if I can somehow between the two of those avenues make what my current annual wage is, like I'd be the fucking happiest person in the world if I can somehow develop that. And like, surprisingly, another thing I didn't notice until the end of last year when I sat down and broke it down, like I obviously didn't make fucking millions off stand-up last year, but to see the money that I made just from telling stupid little jokes, I'm like, holy shit, like that's a pretty crazy thing to see, that people are paying me that much to come and like dribble shit.
Yeah. When you look back, say 10 years ago, and you sort of thought to yourself, like, would you have thought to yourself that this time now you'd be making money doing comedy, you'd have your own production company, you'd be having regular gigs at Distillery Road Market?
No, not a chance. No way in hell. I think a big thing as well, and like they probably wouldn't have intentionally done this, but the group that I was hanging around with then probably wouldn't have, like, I don't know, it wasn't really an option then, if that makes sense. Like I was always just that dickhead that was at parties getting too drunk, making a dick of himself, making everyone laugh. And they were all of like the business mindset. And they're all killing it now. They're all got big successful businesses and shit, but it's certainly not telling dick jokes into a microphone once a week. Like, so that's another thing I've sort of had to process as well. I'm like, okay, like this is like 100% when I was a kid, like, and I've said before, I remember at high school, I wanted to switch from something to like drama class. And I remember my mum wouldn't let me do it because she's like, this lesson will get you further in life or something. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Whereas now that I look back and now all the options that are open these days, like you could be fucking anything these days. Like it's crazy. And there's a big thing at the moment of like, no one wants to be an apprentice anymore. And I'm like, fucking, that's because you can sit at home on TikTok live now and make thousands of dollars doing fucking nothing. Like I don't blame these kids, but, so yeah, I definitely wouldn't have imagined it.
Have you thought of maybe like, investing or looking at like a business coach or like a life mentor? I don't know, like something similar to that?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. But again, it just comes down to dollar figures and shit like that. Like everything comes down to money at the end of the day. If money was not an option, fucking craziest ideas in my head. But similar thing, like supposed to be going to Perth again this Friday, and it's like just fucking weighing up. Do I spend that $1,000 again on flights and accommodation, or do I put that towards a new camera or fucking something to progress myself here. So it's always just a money, comes down to money at the end of the day. I don't know if you look at it that way as well.
I guess like in a way, you know, in order to make money, you got to spend money.
Exactly.
And like if you're going like, is Perth like the furthest you've traveled for comedy?
100%, yeah.
So if you're doing something like that, and you know you've been there once, you went well because you got back. So because you've done well there, some people might have seen you there, or you could go this time, you could go this week, go back to Perth, you can do a killer set, and then a new person that wasn't there last time might see you. Yeah. That could be your big breakout.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's definitely something we're tossing up at the moment, but crazy shit. But
sorry, just quickly, what were your thoughts when you're jumping on the plane going over to Perth? Like, obviously you just said that going to Perth is the furthest you've travelled for comedy.
Furthest I've travelled, full stop.
Okay. Yeah. So what's gone through your mind and how are you feeling? I'm not trying to take over the
No, that's all good.
Like,
I was actually thinking about this week as I was driving, because it's actually something I wanted to cover in last week's episode, but I just fucking skimmed over it. And like Nikita fucking will back up this statement 100%. Almost, not every time I'm driving, because that would sound stupid as fuck, but maybe once a fortnight, like we'll be driving and there'll be like a plane flying, and I'll be just like almost imagine myself on the plane flying somewhere for comedy, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And like that morning was pretty crazy to jump on the plane and realize like I'm flying somewhere for comedy. Like it was a pretty surreal feeling. Like plane ride back was a bit different. It was like fucking get me home. But yeah, I don't know. But how far have you been for anything? You travel?
I don't.
No.
The furthest I've been is Adelaide.
Okay.
And that was for a WWE house show.
Yeah, here we go. Now we're talking.
So a mate who I used to work with, we used to be really big wrestling fans, and he's like he was a semi-professional temp bowler.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's been all over Australia doing all these tournaments and stuff, and so I think it was a tournament called like the Holt Classic or something, like it's where all the like he represented Queensland, so they had the tournament down in Adelaide, and just happened to be at the time they had their tournament in Adelaide, they had the house show in Adelaide.
Yep.
So he asked me the idea. So he's like, "Oh, do you want to go down and check it out?" I was like, "Yep, sure."
Yes.
So I went down to Adelaide. I think their tournament went for like 7 or 8 days, but I went down to Adelaide for like 3 days.
Yeah.
So it was cool being able to be able to get on that flight, and because I think that was the first time I've actually ever been on a plane.
Yeah, okay.
Just going down to Adelaide.
True.
Everywhere else I've just driven.
How old would you have been then?
I would have been, I think it was 2016, so I would have been 21, 22.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Got a big trip planned in August.
Yeah, I've heard.
So going to the UK, our cricket team is qualified for the Last Man Stands Cricket World Championships. So I think all up, there's 10 of us going. So it's going to cost about 50 grand for all of us to.
Holy fuck!
For all of us to get over there. So I think there's going to be 5 of us that. So we go to Dublin for 3 nights, and then we ferry it over to the UK, and then we play the tournament, and then we go to. We play the tournament for 5 or 6 days, and then we go to Amsterdam for like 2 nights.
Yeah, right.
So
Hectic.
5 of us will leave Amsterdam to come home, and then all the single boys will stay on and stay in Europe, and they go to all different parts of Europe and explore there. So
Amsterdam's not a bad place to wrap it up, from what I've heard. Like wrap up the trip.
Yeah. See how we go.
Heard there's some crazy cafes over there that
I follow a guy. So obviously, my trade, I'm a turf cricket curator. So I watch a lot of content to do with like turf wickets and stuff. And there's a guy on there called, his name is Blake Andrew Ghetto, but his page name is B Ghetto Vlogs. So he was a curator in Melbourne at a private school, and then he sort of had enough of that. So he just went overseas, went over to England, travelled there, got to go to like Lords, which is like pretty much the home of cricket.
Yep.
Travelled there, sightseeing and stuff, and then when he came back to Australia, he didn't know what he was going to do. And then he ended up getting a job opportunity in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. VRA cricket over there. So, and he only just didn't do like turf wicket stuff. It was also he was traveling around Amsterdam and checking out all the sites. So seeing all the stuff over there was pretty cool. And also too, like for me personally, I've always wanted to go to like places like Ireland, Scotland. So to go over there and tick Dublin, Ireland off the list would be pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. No, it sounds like a insane trip.
Yeah, I sort of thought to myself, it's once in a lifetime sort 100%. Of thing. Like going over there and to be able to go over there just because I try and hack a ball.
Yeah.
I'm more of a bowler, but try and hack a ball. I think it's pretty cool. So
yeah, definitely.
If there's anyone listening that wants to sponsor me to get over to the UK, please reach out. I would be very appreciative.
Yeah, for sure.
People could do that.
Definitely. Send some love his way. To wrap up the episode, I don't even think I prefaced this to you, but I think you're pretty familiar with the concept when I get guests in. Do you have a can't get any worse story you can share with us? It can be fucking anything. A shitty day at work. I think you're the first guest I haven't said, hey, prep a story.
Do you know what the funny thing was? I was actually thinking about this the other day when we were sort of teeing this up.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder if he's going to ask me a can't get any worse story.
We don't have to if you want to.
No, I've got a couple. I'm just trying to think which would be the best. So I've got a bit of a side job where it's also curating turf wickets. So I do the cricket club, like my local cricket club, and every afternoon without fail, it's always windy.
Yep.
Right. So there's always the challenge of rolling the covers over and then putting the covers on the wicket, and it just happened to be this one day where it was like 4 seasons in one day.
Right.
Summer, winter, spring, autumn.
Yep.
And during the whole day, it was just hot, sunny. Like it would have been 33, 34 degrees. Finished work, went to the cricket club, started doing my work there. And I happened to check the radar and I was looking at the sky and it was sort of like getting dark. So I was like, okay, looks like there's a bit of rain coming. Better get the covers over. So I rolled the covers over. And then the wind just started to pick up, and because the covers are on like this inflatable sausage,
right,
and it sort of just started to roll back slowly. So I'm like, fuck. And because it was all right pushing it over towards the pitch, but when the wind's against you, it's even harder because like these covers are about 200-300 kilos.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they're on an inflatable sausage, rolling them over. Wind started to pick up, started rolling back. So I got off the roller, started rolling them back, and I went to go and put them on. Anyway, I've rolled the covers on. And before I could even peg them down, the wind just picks up.
Oh, no.
Loads of covers off. So I'm like, fuck. So I had to try and get them back. And as I'm pulling, the wind's picked up again and it's just pulled my arm.
Yeah.
It hasn't pulled my arm out of my socket, but it's just severely jarred it.
Gotcha.
And then on top of that, so I'm basically just like one arm fucking Harold, whatever you want to call him. One arm just trying to pull these covers over while trying battling the wind. And all of a sudden, it starts pissing down rain.
Fuck.
So trying to battle the rain, the wind, and putting these covers on, it was just a bit of a shit show. And the wicket ended up getting wet and it became unplayable. And I just felt like I just wanted to lose my shit. I just wanted to get in my car and leave. But I ended up getting the covers on just because usually you put like your hessian down and then your covers on top.
Yeah.
Because obviously with how the Australian summer is, because it gets so hot, when those covers are on top, it tends to sweat underneath.
Gotcha.
So the hessian just really soaks up the moisture on the actual playing pitch. So the pitch stays dry, stays rock hard. But yeah, just battling that the wind, the rain, the heat earlier in the day, and then what happened to my arm, like just couldn't get any fucking worse.
Fucking oath. Were you by yourself?
Yeah, I was by myself.
Fuck that.
So I sort of, the way I do majority of it by myself, but because this happened on a Wednesday, and usually I'll put the covers on a Thursday because the boys will train on a Thursday arvo.
Gotcha.
So I sort of just get them to help me out, but because this was on a Wednesday, and it was a fair bit of rain, so I just wanted to try and keep it as hard as possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, dealing with all that shit, I just wanted to get in my car and go home.
Yeah, I bet. That sort of shit freaks me out because like when I was a kid, I used to go out to my family farm at Gundawindi. And
is it Gundawindi or Gundawindi?
Gundawindi.
Gundawindi, okay.
Yeah. Don't say Gundawindi down there or you get fucking punched in the jaw.
You get rolled?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But all their like grain pits and shit that have under big tarps. Yep. So obviously the grain doesn't get wet. And always used to freak me out. You'd hear all these horror stories of kids getting trapped under these tarps and shit. Because if you went under there, you'd sink into the grain. Yep. And then obviously fucking you're lost in a mountain of grain covered in a tarp. So you're pretty well dead. So I was just getting major flashbacks as you were telling me that story. I'm like, please don't tell me Ty got trapped under a tarp.
No, I've actually seen it was actually at an old club where we were pulling the covers on, and it was the same thing. Wind just got under it. And one of the guys that were actually pulling the covers over, because it was like a group of us, and he was on the end.
Yep.
And he would have been at like 5'5".
Yeah.
The wind got under it, and it actually picked him up and launched him.
Crazy, eh?
He ended up getting like a couple of bruised ribs, but it was one of those things you shouldn't laugh at. But because he was so small, and he's just like a real aggro fella.
Yeah.
Like because he was so small, and the wind just picked up the cover and has just taken him with him. It was actually so funny.
Yeah, I could imagine. Oh, here comes my dog. She's probably going to knock the camera. But I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything you want to plug before you go? We got
Roads Walk Podcast on Instagram. Go on to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Look up Roads Walk Podcast. Make sure you click that follow button. And same with Can't Get Any Worse Podcast. Make sure you click the follow button.
Yeah, helps
with the algorithm. Helps with get the podcast on people's radar. If you want to send me an email, roadswalkpodcast@gmail.com. Any suggestions? Anyone who you might think would have a good story to come on the podcast and share it. Happy to follow up, and any suggestions are welcome.
Easy, sounds good. And any sponsors for Europe?
Email him. Yeah, any sponsors for Europe, please. We leave at the mid-August or end of August. So, obviously the sooner the better, because we will put logos and stuff on like our traveling gear, on our playing gear. So that we'll have to get the ball rolling on that soon. So
I hope you're getting a podcast logo on your one.
I got to sort my merch out first.
yeah.
But I'll try and see what I can tee up.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. Well, I'll put all that in the episode bio anyway.
I might take like a QR code over and just do random stickers.
Yeah. That's fucking not a bad idea. But yeah, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you inviting me into your home and being able to do this.
No stress at all, mate. I'm sure we'll do it again. We're going to do the fucking fight breakdown. So
100%.
I'll see you there anyway.
You will see me there.
All right. Appreciate you coming on. Thanks for listening, and see you later.